Hey everyone, what's up? This is Uri for Gorilla Poker, and today we're gonna have a viewer-requested, very unique, very unorthodox played hand, high stakes involving some very elite players, and we're gonna see some wild stuff, so buckle up and let's hope we can make sense of it. This is 100, 200, button raises to 2.5x, small blind to his LLinusLLove calls, button is Davy, big blind is Nacho, so 3 high-stakes regulars for quite a while. Very, very strong players. Of course, Linus is probably considered the strongest one. Yeah, we have a Queen 7-3 Rainbow, one of the most innocuous boards ever. And Linus checks, as does Nacho. Comes to Davy, and he makes like a third pot bet. Now, usually when you see these third pot bets, I tell you, people are simplifying to betting their whole range. But it's not the case multi-way. Button cannot usually bet his whole range, but he still kind of likes betting small a lot of the time. And the reason for this is that this small bet puts Linus specifically in a bit of a tough situation. Linus can't call as much as he usually would be able to with a player behind. Now, if you make a big bet, Linus can't call much anyway, and you kind of narrow his range to very good hands that are continuing, and maybe he can raise a lot or call a lot, but he's not as worried about the big blind. But these small bets, when you're multi-way, they apply this weird kind of pressure on people who are squeezed behind who want to call a lot but can't. The small bet is kind of bad for Linus and very appropriate, and he's not betting his range, it's just a good bet. So Linus calls, Nacho folds, and we're heads up to the turn, we get the jack of hearts, and Linus donk bets for an overbet. And this is where the hand gets funky. I'm not going to look at multi-way solutions to solve this. Everything is very sensitive, and also I don't feel like they represent too much what happens in reality. But we're going to talk about ranges and logic, and a bit of game theory. Ordinarily, when do you donk bet as an overbet? When the turn card changes range composition so that you suddenly have a lot of top range hands that you didn't have before. So in a heads-up pot, button, say button versus big blind, button would c-bet, big blind would check raise almost all of his good hands versus a small bet. And then on most turn cards, he wouldn't donk bet, but maybe if a straight comes in or one of the lower cards pair, sometimes the top card pairs, it kind of changes what's considered a good hand. And then he gets to start donk betting. Often not for an overbet, it's for a small bet. So this is big blind versus button. Now what happens when it's three-way? Button makes a small bet. Is small blind going to raise all of his good hands, given there's a player behind? And the answer is he shouldn't. He shouldn't raise all his good hands, because by calling some of them, he gets a situation where the big blind raises and maybe the button calls and then he gets to re-raise. So much, much better situation for his value hands. And because there's an incentive to get into that spot with a good hand, you get this equilibrium where you don't raise nearly as much as you would heads up. There is more slow play. Now, again, we're not going to look at exactly how much there is in this specific spot. But given his range has more slow plays in it, it has hands that he would have just raised were it heads up. And it also has less of the bottom of the range because he can't call as much because there's a player behind. All these things kind of add up to that even though the button bet 1/3 pot and the small blind called, and usually you check your range to the aggressor, Linus's range is actually differently constructed than you're used to seeing. It's, first of all, stronger in terms of the bottom is higher up. And second, it has more slow plays. Now, does a jack of hearts improve Linus more than the other player? More than Davy? I don't think so. Maybe Linus is thinking Queen Jack off improved, but I don't think that's a huge issue. I think this is more Linus saying, man, I have 3s and 7s, and I slow played a bunch of those. Plus my range is just stronger than yours after you made this bet, and I called with a strong uncapped range. I'm going to be the one with a betting lead now, rather than you, given all this context. Now, is this actually true in solver land? You can't know until you check, and we're not going to check. But it's coherent in terms of ranges and logic. It makes sense. Linus's range is probably stronger. It is uncapped. He does have hands that are able to overbet, whether it's ace queen or queen jack or sevens or threes, and usually you check to the razor because you check raised all of those, and the razor is the one incentivized to build a pot. But maybe the spot is actually different. And then, once you say that, well, okay, so Linus is going to overbet. What's going to be his range? Once you admit that he gets to have the betting lead, everything becomes straightforward. What's the range to overbet here? So definitely sets and two pairs are going to do it sometimes. Some of the good draws are going to do it. If you have 5-6 of hearts, that seems like a nice hand. Maybe you do it with something like ace queen as well, or king queen sometimes. Remember, the other guy just c-bet 130 has a wide range. Okay, so we have the call. And once you've made this shift out, Linus, to have the pre-flop betting, everything here is reasonable. So ace of clubs on the river, king 10 gets there. Davy's going to have more king 10s than Linus. And this is really important when you're thinking through a hand and you're thinking, well, what does the river change? King 10 got there, but can Linus have king 10? How can he have king 10? He would have to call pre-flop with king 10 and then call flop. And for that, he would need a backdoor flush draw. So he would have 3 combos of king 10 maximum. Whereas Davy, all he needs to do is c-bet king 10, which is perfectly reasonable. So presumably he can have all the combos. So in this sense, the king 10 getting there is more in Davy's range than Linus's. Ace, Davy improves to aces. He improves to ace jack. Does Linus improve to ace jack? No, because he overbet the turn. And you have to kind of, when you're doing hand reading, this is very automatic for professional players, but be very cognizant of what the ranges actually are, and what your absolute hand strength actually is. And here on the river, Linus just shoves for 2x pot, and if we go through the range, what could he have? Pocket 3s, pocket 7s. Can queen jack shove here? Not sure. Can ace queen shove here? Maybe. Can ace jack shove here? He can't have ace jack. So we have 3s, 7s, king 10 suited, maybe some ace queen. It's basically Linus's range. And then Davy's going to have, depending on his hand, a decision, because he could have kings, he could have king queen, he could have queen jack. Plenty of hands he could have, and he's going to have bluff catching decisions with some of them. The second he beats ace queen or chops with ace queen, I think there's no decision. You just click call because your hand is too strong. And then the decision is going to be if you have something like ace jack or queen jack or king queen or pocket kings or a7. Those hands are going to be what we call pure bluff catchers. They don't beat value, they have nice removal effects, and it's a big bet, so you have to mix with those. So yeah, Davy calls. We see a showdown. Davy has ace queen, I think played very, very normal. And Linus has king 10 of clubs, and I think that's also played normal if you allow for the fact that he gets to have the turn betting lead. So, crazy hand, but hopefully we made a bit of sense of it, and yeah, hope you guys enjoyed it. Please keep sending me interesting hands. These are definitely nice to cover once in a while, so if anyone has anything else they would like to see covered on the channel that they haven't seen yet, let me know. And yeah, if you enjoyed it, like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.